Saimei High has a yearbook. But one copy was sealed away for years. Not because it was old, but because of the faces inside it. Every time the photograph changes, a student disappears. Not dead, not alive, but erased from the world. Don't stare. Don't smile. Don't let the yearbook remember you. Because once it does, the world forgets you. Chapter 1. The Old Yearbook in the Storage Room. The new school year began at Saimei High. Laughter and excitement filled the hallways as students returned from their long break. But Class 11B didn't start the year with joy. They were assigned to clean the old storage room in the north building, a place even teachers rarely dared to enter. The heavy iron door creaked open. Dust rose into the air, and the smell of dampness and mold hit their noses instantly. Stacks of cardboard boxes, outdated cameras, and piles of documents lay scattered like relics from a forgotten era. A weak yellow light bulb flickered overhead, as if struggling to stay alive. "This place looks like it's hiding a dead body," someone joked. The class laughed, though none of them could ignore the uneasy shiver crawling up their spines. While sorting through the shelves, Kaito, the most mischievous boy in the class, suddenly pulled out a thick book wrapped in plastic, bound tightly with a rusty steel wire, as if someone had desperately tried to keep it sealed. The dust on the cover was thick, but beneath layers of decay, faint letters could still be read. Saimei High School Yearbook, 1998. An old yearbook? Why wrap it like this? Kaito muttered, amused. Mika, the class president, immediately stepped in. Don't open it, someone sealed it for a reason. But the warning came too late. Kaito yanked the steel wire. It snapped with a sharp sting, cutting his finger. He barely noticed the blood dripping as he opened the yearbook in front of everyone. Inside were faded pages filled with portraits of students, club activities, school festivals, field trips, typical and harmless memories of high school life. Everyone gathered around, pointing and laughing at the outdated hairstyles and stiff uniforms. Everything felt normal, until they reached the class graduation group photo of 1998. At the center of the back row, between two students, there was an empty space. Not the kind caused by someone stepping away during the shoot, but a clean, unnatural erasure of a human figure, leaving a pale and distorted blank shape. Maybe the film got damaged, someone whispered. How does damage erase an entire person perfectly? Another said, voice tightening. Kaito burst out laughing. What if it was a ghost who got deleted? His joke earned groans, but no one could deny what they all felt deep down. The photo, the shadows, the alignment, the lighting, all proved someone should have been standing there. Mika's worry deepened. Let's put it back, something about this is wrong. But Kaito, delighted by the discovery, waved her off. Come on, this is cool, I'm putting it on display in our classroom. He slid the yearbook into his backpack and ignored everyone's protests. None of them noticed that when he turned away, the metal door of the storage room trembled slightly, without any wind. Before leaving, Mika turned back for one last glance. In that split second, the flickering light bulbs suddenly glowed bright white, then burst, plunging the room into darkness. For that moment of blinding light, Mika thought she saw something. A blurry figure standing exactly where the erased student should have been. Watching them walk away, the new school year had only just begun. But the return of the 1998 yearbook had awakened something that should have remained sealed forever. Chapter 2. The Changing Photograph. Homeroom on Monday should have been noisy as usual. But something was different in Class 11B. Everyone sat on edge, not because of classes, but because of the yearbook inside Kaito's backpack. When the bell rang, Kaito walked straight to the teacher's desk, unzipped his bag, and pulled out the 1998 yearbook with the confidence of someone showing off a trophy. I reread the whole thing last night. He smirked. That class photo is hilarious once you get used to it. He flipped to the graduation group picture. But the moment the page opened, every sound in the room vanished. The blank spot was no longer blank. Someone was standing in the middle of the back row. A student in an old Saimei High uniform, posture rigid, hands to the side. But the face was blurred beyond recognition. No clear eyes, nose, or mouth. Only a vague human shape with two dark pits where the eyes should be. Staring straight at the viewer. "No, that wasn't there yesterday," Mika whispered, stunned. "We didn't see that," another student said shakily. "We're not imagining things, right?" someone else added. Deep down, no one doubted what they saw the day before. The space was empty, completely empty. Kaito tried to laugh it off, but even his voice trembled. "Maybe my brain just edited it out yesterday? You know, optical illusion stuff." Before he could finish, the pages of the yearbook began to flutter, though no one touched it. A cold gust swept across the classroom, yet every window was shut. Mika slammed the book shut in panic. "That's enough. We're putting it back in storage today." But Kaito shook her off and marched to the classroom display shelf. "It'll be fine. It's just an old book, we'll keep it here. A cool decoration, right?" He placed the yearbook upright on the shelf. At that exact moment, the ceiling lights flickered violently, then steadied. Not like a malfunction, but like something had been activated. They tried to continue class, but no one could think straight. Every student felt a pressure, like eyes crawling up their back. When school ended, Mika stayed alone in the classroom. She couldn't explain why, but something inside her insisted she look again. She took a slow, fearful step toward the display shelf and opened the yearbook to the group photo. Her breath caught. The blurred person in the middle now had a faint smile on their lips. Not a normal smile, but the kind someone makes when they've finally gotten what they wanted. Mika froze. She closed the book again, then immediately reopened it, hoping the image would revert. It didn't. And then, the impossible happened. As she stared at the page, she could feel the figure's eyes following her. Like the entire class in the photograph had shifted their gaze to watch her every movement. The classroom door suddenly opened. Kaito walked in and grabbed his forgotten notebook. "You're still here? Don't stare too long, it gets creepier when you focus on it." Mika didn't answer. She simply pointed at the picture. The half smile, the clearer silhouette, the sharpened features. The face that wasn't there yesterday was sharper today. As if someone was gradually developing the photo, one night at a time. Kaito swallowed hard, but forced a grin. Old photos degrade weirdly sometimes. Someone probably retouched it years ago. Or something. He didn't sound convinced. Sunset light spilled across the classroom floor as they packed their bags to leave. Neither of them looked back. Because if they had, they would have seen. The blurred figure in the photo turned its head slightly, watching them walk out of the room, and smiling just a little wider. Chapter 3, The First Disappearance. The third morning of the new school year was unnaturally quiet. The usually lively schoolyard felt heavy, cold, as if the wind itself carried bad news. But the silence in Class 11B wasn't caused by the weather. Shun didn't come to school. At first, everyone assumed he overslept or caught a cold. But when the homeroom teacher entered with a pale, tense expression, the entire class fell silent before she even spoke. "Shun didn't return home last night," she announced quietly. "His family has contacted the police." Whispers erupted instantly. "That's impossible. I saw him post on Instagram last night." "No," the teacher shook her head. "His phone was found in his room. He never left the house with it." The air turned to ice. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. Mika's eyes slowly drifted toward the display shelf at the corner of the room. The yearbook sat there like a predator pretending to sleep. At break time, the class gathered around it. Everyone wanted to believe in a logical explanation. Everyone wanted to prove that Shun's disappearance and the book had nothing to do with each other. So Kaito opened the yearbook, hands trembling even though he tried to hide it. They flipped to the 1998 graduation group photo. And then, no one screamed. No one spoke. Everyone just froze. The blurred figure in the center now had a face. And that face belonged to Shun. Every feature, his eyebrows, the small mole under his left eye, were unmistakable. Someone gagged. Another burst into tears. Mika's voice trembled. No, this can't be happening. He can't be in the photo. Kaito tried to form words, failing again and again before forcing them out. Maybe someone edited the photo? But he didn't believe it. No one believed it. Before anyone could process what they were seeing, the yearbook pages flipped on their own until it reached the 2025 class page. The one where every student's portrait slot was prepared for the end-of-year photos. Where Shun's portrait should have been, there was only an empty white void. Not blurred, not scratched out, completely erased, as if he had never existed. Kaito dropped to his knees, shaking violently. He's alive, he has to be alive, he can't just be gone. Mika shut the yearbook with shaking hands and clutched it to her chest. This isn't a coincidence, she whispered. It's choosing us. Everyone stared at her in terror, not because they doubted her, but because every single person in that room had the same thought. If Shun was taken, someone else would be next. The bell rang for the next class, but no one moved. Shun's desk, third from the front, next to the window, was still there, but no one dared to look at it. Because deep down, every student felt it. The yearbook wasn't finished yet. It was waiting. And somewhere inside it, Shun was smiling, wider than he ever had in life. Chapter 4. The Smile in the Night. The night after Shun's disappearance, Mika couldn't sleep. No matter how many times she closed her eyes, the image forced itself into her mind. Shun in the 1998 class photo, standing stiffly in the back row, smiling a smile that wasn't his. It wasn't the shy, awkward smile he used to make at school. It was wide, too wide, like someone had stretched the corners of his mouth apart. Mika tossed and turned until midnight. Then, she heard something. Tap, tap, tap? Not from the hallway. Not from the street. The sound came from her bedroom window. She froze. Her room was on the second floor. No one should be able to reach the window from outside. The tapping continued, rhythmic, patient, as if whoever, or whatever, was out there didn't need to hurry. Hands trembling, Mika reached for her phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam of light reflected faintly off the window pane. And that's when she saw it. A faint silhouette, blurred by the darkness, stood right outside her window, smiling. She couldn't see the face clearly, but she didn't need to. She knew that smile. Her body refused to move. Her throat closed. She wanted to scream, but even fear was paralyzed. Then suddenly, knock, knock, knock. 3 sharp taps. This time not on the window. On her bedroom door. The window figure wasn't the only one there. Mika squeezed her eyes shut, tears streaming, and whispered to herself, "I'm dreaming. This isn't real. This isn't real." The knocking stopped. Silence turned suffocating, crushing her lungs. Then, her phone buzzed. A notification. Her heart dropped when she saw the sender. Shun. A message from someone who had disappeared. Hands trembling violently, Mika opened it. The message contained only a single photo. A picture of Mika's bedroom taken from the doorway. Right behind her. She dropped the phone in terror. She didn't hear the door open. She didn't hear footsteps. But she felt a cold presence right behind her. Her skin prickled with icy dread, like something was hovering inches from her neck. Waiting. She couldn't turn around. She didn't dare. Then her phone buzzed again. Another message. She stared down. Smile. Mika burst into a sob, the sound sharp, desperate, begging for mercy. But the presence behind her leaned closer. And she felt a cold breath on her ear. A whisper. Not Shun's voice, and not a stranger's. Something in between. Greater than, if you smile, you won't be alone. Mika dug her nails into her palms, holding back the scream, holding back the breakdown, holding back the instinct to turn around. Then, as suddenly as it came, the presence vanished. The air warmed. The window was empty. The tapping stopped. Her phone fell silent. Mika curled up on the bed, shaking uncontrollably until morning. She didn't know what was happening. But she understood one thing with horrifying clarity. Shun wasn't gone. He wanted her to join him. And that night was not an attack. It was an invitation. Chapter 5, The Replacement. The next morning, Mika walked into class with dark circles under her eyes, her body heavy from a night without sleep. Kaito noticed immediately. "You look terrible. Are you okay?" Mika didn't answer. She just glanced fearfully toward the classroom display shelf. The 1998 yearbook sat there, perfectly still, perfectly quiet. But to Mika, it felt like a loaded gun pointed at everyone. Kaito followed her gaze and swallowed hard. "You saw something last night, didn't you?" Mika didn't reply, but her silence was enough. Before they could talk further, the classroom door slid open. A student rushed in, out of breath. "Aya didn't show up to school today." The classroom erupted. "What, another one? Did she run away because of Shun?" "No way, there's no way it's happening again." But while everyone argued, Mika stood frozen. Her phone buzzed. A notification. A message from Aya. She opened it with trembling fingers. It was a picture. A selfie taken in the classroom right before school ended yesterday. Aya's expression was terrified. Her eyes were red from crying. And beside her, at her shoulder, Shun's blurred face was visible, smiling unnaturally wide. Aya had been crying alone in the classroom yesterday. And Shun had been beside her. Mika dropped her phone. Her legs went weak. Kaito rushed to look at the screen. His face drained of color. "God, Aya, no!" Someone in class screamed. Everyone turned. The yearbook on the shelf had fallen open on its own. No one touched it. No one dared to go near it. But from where they stood, all of them could clearly see the page. The 1998 graduation group photo. Aya was standing there, right next to Shun. Her face was clearer than before. And she was smiling. Not a smile of happiness. Not a smile of fear. A smile of acceptance. A smile of someone who had already given up. Tears broke out across the classroom. But the worst part wasn't the 1998 page. Kaito stepped forward, almost collapsing as he turned to the 2025 class page, where each student's portrait should be located. Aya's spot had turned blank. Not erased violently. Just clean and empty, like she had never existed. The exact same thing that happened to Shun. Mika trembled. It's replacing us, one by one. When someone disappears, they take their place in the 1998 photo. Kaito grabbed Mika by the shoulders, his voice cracking. "We can't let it choose anyone else. We have to stop it now." But Mika's eyes filled with terror, a different kind of terror. "It hasn't chosen randomly," she whispered. "It took Shun first, and then the person closest to him, Aya." The room fell silent. Everyone realized the horrifying logic. If the next victim was chosen based on who was closest to Aya, then every head turned slowly toward Mika. She backed away, shaking violently. "Kaito, don't let them look at me like that, please." But the truth was clear to all of them. The next place to be filled in the 1998 photo would be Mika's. At that exact moment, a heavy thud echoed from the shelf. The yearbook slammed itself shut, shaking the entire wooden rack. Students screamed and fled the classroom. Kaito grabbed Mika's arm, voice breaking. "I'm not letting it take you. I don't care what happens, I won't let it." But Mika didn't look convinced. Her voice was small, fragile. "What if wanting to save me is exactly what makes it choose you?" Kaito froze. Because the smile he saw in the 1998 photo that morning was not only directed at Mika. It was directed at both of them. Chapter 6, The Day Mika Should Have Died. For the first time in days, Mika stayed home from school. Her parents thought it was just exhaustion. They didn't know that she wasn't sleeping. She was waiting for death. Because that night, based on everything that had happened, should have been the night she disappeared. The same pattern. Night 1. Shun vanished. Night 2. Aya vanished. Night 3, it had to be Mika. So Mika sat in her room, eyes wide open, refusing to blink for too long, refusing to relax, refusing to move. She had locked her door. She had closed the windows. She had turned off every device. And she sat on the floor, hugging her knees, staring toward the hallway. If the yearbook came for her, she would face it awake, not taken in her sleep. Time crawled. 23:40. 23:50. 23:56. Her heart hammered so loudly she could barely think. 23:59. She dug her nails into her arms. Midnight. The second the clock turned 0, Mika held her breath. Nothing happened. For a moment, the silence was worse than any nightmare. She waited, shaking. Still nothing. No tapping on the window. No footsteps. No message. No voice. No Shun. No Aya. Nothing came to take her. A sob escaped her, not of relief, but confusion. Why? Why not me? Then, her phone buzzed. She didn't want to pick it up, but her trembling hand reached for it. The notification wasn't a message. It was a call. The caller ID read, "Greater than Aya Cherry Blossom." Mika almost dropped the phone. Aya had no signal yesterday when she disappeared. Aya's phone should no longer exist in anyone's memory. Then a second call came in, from someone else. "Greater than Shun camera with flash." "No, no, please," Mika whispered, shaking violently. Both calls came again. And again. And again. Until the screen froze, and suddenly switched to a video call request. "Greater than Aya and Shun are calling." Mika screamed and threw the phone away. But even across the room, with the broken screen facing up, she could see the frozen preview image. Aya and Shun were standing side by side. Behind them, a dark, endless void like a torn fabric in reality. And both of them were smiling too widely, too perfectly. A dead smile. Then the screen went black. Mika collapsed to the floor, sobbing into her shaking hands. She wasn't chosen. She wasn't taken. But Shun and Aya weren't coming for her. Something else was. She didn't understand, not until she went to school the next morning. In class 11B, everyone stared. Not in fear, but in shock. Because Mika didn't see what they were seeing. But they saw it. The yearbook on the display shelf was wide open. To the 2025 class portrait page. Only one student's photo slot had changed. Right below Kaito's empty space, the portrait slot of a different student, not Mika, had already become blank. Someone else disappeared last night. And yet, they were not Shun. They were not Aya. They were not Mika. A boy collapsed to the floor crying. "It took her. It took my sister. My sister wasn't even in our class. Why? Why?" Only then did Mika understand. The yearbook wasn't following a rule. It wasn't taking the closest person in order. It wasn't following a pattern. It was choosing who it wanted. Nothing could predict who was next. No one could escape by guessing the pattern. Mika sank to the floor, stunned. "I'm not safe," she whispered. "None of us are safe." At the front of the classroom, the 1998 photo gleamed under the morning light. Shun and Aya were smiling. Waiting. Chapter 7. The night of the final photograph. Aya's disappearance was only the beginning. And the yearbook had already chosen its next victim. Aya tried everything to protect herself. She stopped going to school. She taped her curtains shut. She turned off every light. She shut down every electronic device. But it didn't matter. The yearbook didn't need the classroom to reach her. 10:02 p.m. Aya sat in her room hugging her knees. The house was asleep, the silence so deep she could hear her own heartbeat echo inside her skull. She tried to breathe slowly, but every second felt like a countdown. She kept checking her phone. 10:48 p.m. 11:12 p.m. 11:39 p.m. Midnight was approaching. 11:57 p.m. The first sound. Click. Aya's body jerked. It wasn't the window. It wasn't the hallway. It wasn't outside. The sound of a camera shutter came from inside her room. "Mom," she whispered, though she knew that voice wouldn't come. She didn't dare turn around. Another click. This time, right next to her ear. She screamed and scrambled to the farthest corner of the room. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from the hallway outside her door. Slow, heavy, deliberate. One, another, stopping right in front of her door. Aya grabbed her mouth to stop herself from screaming. Click. A third shutter sound, this one somehow louder, crueler, as if the camera were inches from her. 12 a.m., the crossing. The lights in her room began flickering wildly. And her phone, which had been turned off, lit up on its own. A notification appeared. Greater than one new photo received. Her shaking hands picked up the phone. She opened the image. It was a picture of her, taken from behind, as she sat curled in the corner of her room. The picture had been taken from inside the room. Aya dropped the phone, sobbing. Then, the knocking began. Knock. 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 Not on the door this time. On the back of her closet mirror. She crawled backward in panic, until her back hit the wall. The mirror rattled violently. Then, a voice whispered from behind it. Not Aya's voice. Not Shun's voice. But something that sounded like both speaking together. Greater than, come join us. The mirror surface began to blur. As if someone was stepping forward from the other side. Aya screamed, leapt up, and ran to her bedroom door. She tried to open it. But it wouldn't budge. Something was holding it shut. Her knees buckled. She turned around. The mirror was no longer shaking. Someone was already halfway through it. The shape of a student. Wearing the old Saimei uniform. Head tilted. Mouth stretched in a wide grin. Aya clawed at the doorknob until her fingers bled. Then, click. The brightest flash Aya had ever seen filled the room. And then, morning. Her parents found her door locked from the inside. When they finally broke it open, the room was perfectly clean. Everything in its place. The curtains untouched. No sign of struggle. No Aya. But on her desk lay a single object. Saimei High School Yearbook, 1998. Opened to the graduation photo. Shun was there. Aya stood next to him. Both of them were smiling. Their hands almost touching. And behind their eyes, something dark shimmered like a reflection of a world no one should see. Chapter 8. The Smiles That Kept Growing. Aya's disappearance shattered what little denial Class 11B had left. No one wanted to go near the classroom display shelf anymore. But even without touching it, everyone felt the weight of the yearbook watching them. On Tuesday morning, before homeroom began, a scream erupted from the back of the room. A student pointed a trembling finger at the yearbook. It opened by itself. The entire class gathered around, terror replacing curiosity. The 1998 graduation photo was displayed. And Shun and Aya now stood next to each other. Both smiling. Both clearer than ever. But what froze everyone's blood was not them. It was the expressions of the other students in the photo. Their faces had started to change. The corners of their mouths were slightly raised. Their lips stretched just a little too wide. Their eyes had the wrong emotion behind the smiles: fear, pain, panic. It looked like they were being forced to smile. No way, they were normal yesterday. Someone whispered. And we didn't touch the book. No one did. The class stared in horror. If Shun and Aya were already taken, and the smiles of the others were widening, then the yearbook wasn't finished. It was preparing. Waiting. Choosing. Panic takes over. Students began refusing to enter the classroom. Some stayed home. Some ripped mirrors out of their bedrooms. Some turned off every electronic device in their house. No one dared smile for a photo, not even on their phones. But no matter how far they tried to run from the idea, the terror followed. Because every morning, someone different would gather the courage to check the photo. And every morning, the smiles grew wider. Small changes, millimeters at a time. But it was happening. Like the yearbook was tightening its grip on each student in the 2025 class. One smile at a time. Then came the real horror. On Friday, Kaito and Mika entered the classroom earlier than everyone else. Kaito had hardly eaten for days. His hands shook when he opened the yearbook, despite trying to look brave. The 1998 photo had changed again. Shun and Aya were still there, smiling wide as ever. But now, everyone in Class 11B saw something new. The student whose turn it was to be taken next had the widest smile in the picture. It wasn't random. The yearbook wasn't picking without order. It was marking its next target by stretching their smile the most. Mika scanned the line of faces. And when she saw it, she gasped and staggered backward. Kaito, your smile, it's wider than everyone else. Kaito snatched the book, and his knees buckled. His own image in the photo wasn't smiling. It was grinning. Eyes full of terror, mouth stretched too far, lips trembling. A smile that looked like it hurt. Mika grabbed his arm. No, 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 it can't be you next. It can't. But Kaito broke. He didn't scream, didn't deny it, he just shook. Tears falling silently. I don't want to disappear. Mika, I don't want to. He pressed his forehead against hers, desperate, shaking, begging. Everyone in the room understood one terrible truth. Greater than the wider the smile, the closer the death. Then, as if to confirm it, the yearbook snapped shut on its own, shaking the desk. A page marker ribbon slid out from the bottom. Only Kaito and Mika saw it. A blood-red ribbon pointed directly to the night of Shun's disappearance. Like the yearbook was counting down again. Chapter 9, The Weeping in the Darkroom. After discovering that the yearbook had marked Kaito next, Mika made her decision. She wasn't going to wait for the book to take him. If the nightmare began with the 1998 photograph, then there had to be answers in the place where that photo was born. The old photo darkroom, sealed for years in the north building basement. Kaito begged her not to go. No one who goes near the source ever comes back. Mika, please, if it sees me again, it'll take me. I don't want to die. Mika grabbed his trembling hands. And I don't want to live in a world without you. So we go together. There was no more argument. Descent into the dark. The stairwell leading to the old darkroom was as silent as a tomb. Rust and mold covered the walls, the concrete floor was lined with scratches, long, desperate, fingernail-like scratches. The metal door at the bottom was half open. No lock. No attempt to keep anyone out. As if something had been waiting. Kaito's grip tightened around Mika's hand. Mika, we shouldn't be here? But Mika pushed the door open. The flashlight beam cut into the darkness. And both of them froze. Every inch of the darkroom was covered in photographs. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Taped, pinned, hung on strings, stacked in piles. Every photo was the same type. Group portraits. Different years. Different classes. Different generations of Saimei High. And in every single photo, someone's face had been erased. Mika stepped closer and realized something horrifying. They weren't erased randomly. The missing students were the ones who disappeared each year. They had not run away. They had not died. They had been taken. Kaito's breath shook violently. But then, where did they go? Mika didn't answer. Because she saw it. Pinned on the back wall was a large print of the 1998 graduation photograph. The exact one from the yearbook. But this version showed one thing the yearbook did not. At the center of the back row stood a man. A man in a staff uniform. Holding a vintage camera. The photography teacher. Kazuo Nishida. On a desk below the photo lay his name tag. Old and rusted. The photo had been taken right before he died. The cries in the walls. Before Mika or Kaito could speak. A sound filled the room. Soft. Faint. Choking. Crying. Not from one person. From dozens. The crying echoed from the photographs themselves. Children sobbing. Teenagers gasping for air. Voices begging through tears. Greater than, let us out. Don't look at him. Don't replace us. Please, don't send anyone else in. Kaito fell to his knees. covering his ears, shaking uncontrollably. This isn't a curse, it's a prison, they're trapped in there. Mika, they're still alive in there. Then, another voice cut through the crying. A man's voice. Deep. Grieving. Desperate. Greater than, just one more. The voice echoed again, louder. Greater than, only one more. And the picture will finally be perfect. Mika stepped backward, toward the exit, but the metal door slammed shut. Kaito screamed. Something was walking toward them. Not loud. Not aggressive. Slow. Steady. Step. 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 Kaito raised the flashlight. And the beam revealed him. The photography teacher. Kazuo Nishida. No eyes on his face, only white. Blurred skin where features should be. As if reality itself rejected his existence. He lifted the old camera hanging from his neck, arms moving with horrifying grace. Greater than, the picture must be perfect. He didn't lunge. He didn't attack. He begged. Greater than, just one more. One more student? To take his place. Mika shook her head violently. Tears spilling. We won't let you take anyone else, no more. But Nishida only lowered his head, like a grieving man, not a monster. Greater than, the picture isn't complete. No one can rest until it is. Then, the photographs around the room began to move. Every face smiled wider. Every erased figure shimmered, trying to form. Kaito's photograph, the version from the yearbook, fell from the wall and slid to his feet. And his image in it smiled wider than any other. The crying of trapped students turned into screams. Greater than, don't stand in for him. Don't take his place. Don't let anyone replace anyone. Mika grabbed Kaito, yelling above the chaos, we need to run. But on the floor, Kaito saw something worse than his own photo. A blank space. Right next to Shun and Aya. Waiting to be filled. And Mika understood. The darkroom didn't want Kaito to die. It wanted to trap someone willing to replace him. The curse didn't need victims. It needed volunteers. Chapter 10, The Photographer's Last Wish. The darkroom was shaking, not violently, but with a low, suffocating tension, as if the walls themselves were alive. Mika and Kaito didn't move. They couldn't. Nishida, the photography teacher, stood in front of them, holding his old camera. But he didn't act like a monster. He looked like a man begging for help. Greater than, just one more. Only one more? And the picture will finally be complete. His voice cracked with desperation. Not hatred. Not rage. But grief. Mika forced herself to speak, her voice trembling. You're the first one the photo took, aren't you? Nishida didn't nod. Didn't shake his head. Instead, he opened his free hand, revealing something small and fragile. A torn page of his diary. Mika slowly reached for it, hands barely steady. The page read, Greater than, they say I'll be replaced next year. They say no one wants my class. They say my photos are meaningless. Greater than, I won't let myself disappear. If they erase me from this school, I'll leave something they can never forget. Mika swallowed hard and continued reading. Greater than, the photo must be perfect. No missing students. No imperfections. If someone escapes, someone must take their place. And the final words, written in a wild, broken hand, froze her heart. Greater than, even if I die, I will finish the picture. Kaito stared at Nishida, horrified. You cursed the school for a perfect photo? Nishida trembled. Not with anger, but with agony. Greater than, I didn't want to die. I didn't want to be forgotten. For a moment, he looked almost human. Then his voice shattered. Greater than, they erased me. So now, the world owes me a perfect picture. The darkroom lights began flickering violently. The photographs lining the walls started to smile wider. The trapped student's eyes stretching with terror. Nishida raised his camera very slowly. Greater than, only one more. And the picture will finally be complete. And I can rest. His voice wasn't threatening. He was pleading, like a soul trapped between life and death. Mika forced herself to speak through tears. If someone stands in that empty spot, if someone fills the place, will the others come back? Nishida became completely still. Then, he nodded. Kaito grabbed Mika with both hands. Don't even think it. Mika, I'm begging you. But Mika looked at him with a pain deeper than fear. A grief worse than death. She already knew what she was going to say. If I take your place, you'll live. Kaito shook his head violently. No, I don't want you to save me. I want you to stay with me. They weren't arguing, they were breaking. Mika clung to Kaito with trembling arms. Someone has to end this. But it doesn't have to be you. Kaito sobbed. Nishida lifted his camera again. Greater than, only one more. The blank space in the 1998 photo on the wall suddenly glowed faintly. As if beckoning someone to stand there. Kaito cried like he was drowning. Mika, please don't. Mika touched his cheek, softly, tenderly, for what she already knew would be the last time. She didn't smile. But her eyes spoke. If someone has to disappear, let it be me, not you. The darkroom lights dimmed. Nishida's camera clicked softly, not yet a photo. Just anticipation. He wasn't hunting. He was waiting to be freed. Chapter 11, Kaito's Smile. It had been 3 days since I had disappeared. 3 days since Kaito learned he was next. Every morning, he woke up hoping the nightmare had ended. Every morning, he looked in the mirror and prayed to see his normal face. But on the 4th morning, his worst fear came true. He smiled. Not because he wanted to. But because his face had started smiling on its own. His lips were pulled upward unnaturally. The muscles of his cheeks twitched painfully. No matter how hard he tried to relax his mouth, the smile only widened. He put on a mask before school. But when he walked into the classroom, the mask wasn't enough. Students gasped when they saw him. Kaito, what happened to your face? He didn't answer. He didn't dare speak, because even his voice now had a faint tremor. Like he was suppressing a laugh he didn't feel. Mika rushed to him and grabbed his wrists. It started, hasn't it? The smile. Kaito nodded, tears streaming. But his mouth stayed stretched in a horrible grin. Mika guided him to his seat, shielding him from the others. But there was no hiding the truth. Everyone saw the smile. And they had all seen variations of that smile before. On Shun. On Aya. Right before they disappeared. The breaking point. At lunch, Kaito collapsed to the floor. His smile widened so violently that the corners of his lips began to crack and bleed. Students screamed. Mika dropped to her knees and hugged him tightly as he trembled in her arms. I don't want to disappear. He choked out through a trembling laugh. I don't want to go where they are. I don't want to die. Mika held him even tighter. You won't, I promise. I won't let it happen. But her promise sounded fragile. Like a thin thread trying to hold back a flood. Kaito suddenly pulled something from his pocket. A piece of paper. No, not paper. A photo. The 2025 class group photo. Only this version wasn't the one displayed in the classroom. This one had changed. Everyone in the picture was smiling unnaturally. But Kaito's smile was the widest of all. Mika's hands shook. Kaito, why do you have this photo? I didn't put it there. He sobbed. It was just in my pocket this morning. I never printed it. I never touched it. The image was changing even as they watched it. The smile on Kaito's face in the photo pulled wider and wider. Until the corners of his mouth reached his ears. And his eyes became empty. A dead grin. A grin of someone who had already lost himself. Everyone in the classroom fell silent. Because it was now obvious. Greater than when the smile finishes forming. Kaito will disappear. The yearbook wasn't just taking their bodies. It was erasing their existence from the world. Slowly, smile by smile. Mika pressed her forehead to Kaito's, crying openly, I'll save you. I don't care what it takes, I'll save you. Kaito's voice cracked as he begged, don't trade yourself for me. I don't want you to die so I can live. I'd rather disappear than lose you. But they both knew the truth. If someone didn't take Kaito's place, The yearbook would finish the smile. And he would be next to join Shun and Aya. Somewhere behind them, pages flipped on their own. The yearbook opened to the 1998 graduation photo. And for the first time, the empty spot next to Shun and Aya glowed faintly. Waiting. Calling. Demanding. Mika whispered to Kaito, soft. Desperate. Breaking. I'm not afraid to disappear. I'm afraid of a world where you're gone. Kaito's smile, the cursed smile, trembled violently with emotion rather than magic. Even as the curse tried to keep him grinning. His eyes, full of tears, begged her. Don't sacrifice yourself. Chapter 12, The Exchange. That night, Saimei High was silent. The moon hung low over the schoolyard, casting long shadows across the empty field. There were no students. No teachers. No voices. Only two figures stood under the cold night air. Mika and Kaito. Midnight was approaching. Kaito's smile, the curse, had grown worse. The corners of his lips were torn and bleeding, and his cheeks twitched violently as he tried to force the grin down. Mika, please, don't do this. I don't want you to die for me. Mika took his trembling hands and pressed them against her heart. As long as someone remembers me, I won't disappear completely. Kaito shook his head like a child losing everything. But I don't want to remember you, I want to be with you. They weren't arguing. They were breaking. 11:59 p.m. The air grew heavy. The wind died. Kaito suddenly stumbled forward, as if someone had hooked invisible strings to his shoulders, pulling him toward the center of the schoolyard. No, please, not now, Kaito sobbed as his body lurched unwillingly forward. Mika grabbed him and held him back with all her strength. A faint glow began to form beneath the two of them. The outline of a standing position on the ground. Exactly where the missing student should be in the 1998 photo. A marked place. A vacancy waiting to be filled. Kaito screamed in terror. Mika, don't go there, don't stand in that spot, if you do. It'll take you instead. Mika looked at him with eyes full of love and grief. That's the point. She pushed him back with a burst of desperate strength and stepped into the glowing outline. A quiet snap echoed through the air. The sound of something locking into place. The wind roared. The glow beneath Mika's feet intensified, swirling upward like unseen hands trying to pull her away from the living world. Kaito tackled her, clinging to her waist with all the force of someone drowning. No, I won't let you go. If you disappear, I'll follow you. Mika wrapped her arms around him one last time. If you follow me, that means everything I'm doing will be meaningless. His sobs broke into frantic laughter, the curse twisting even his breath. I can't live without you. I can't. Mika pressed her forehead against his and whispered. You already gave me a reason to live. Now let me give you a reason to survive. And then, a single tear fell from Mika's eye. Not from fear, but because she understood the cruel truth. Saving Kaito meant losing him forever. The glowing outline flared, and Mika was torn from Kaito's arms. There was no scream, just silence. A blinding white flash, like the shutter of a camera. Then, the wind stopped. The glow vanished. The night went still. Mika was gone. The place where she stood was empty. Kaito collapsed on the ground and let out a raw, soul-breaking scream. Macaw. But the only answer was the cold night air. Chapter 13, The Morning After. Kaito woke up on the classroom floor. Not in the schoolyard. Not in the middle of the glowing outline. Just the cold tiles beneath him. As if nothing had happened. The morning sun spilled through the windows. Students filled the classroom with idle chatter, laughter, arguments about homework. Completely normal. Too normal. Kaito slowly stood up, dizzy and trembling. Where's Mika? No one reacted. He asked again, louder. Where is Mika? A few classmates looked at him, confused. Who? Do we even have anyone named Mika in our class? Kaito felt a cold wave crash through his body. No, don't lie to me. She sits right there. He pointed to Mika's seat. But the desk wasn't there. There had never been a desk there. A group of girls exchanged glances. Kaito, are you okay? Did you hit your head or something? Kaito shoved a chair aside and ran to the display shelf. Grabbing the yearbook, he flipped to the 2025 class page. There was no blank slot anymore. There were only Shun, missing. Aya, missing. Mika, never existed. Mika's photo slot was gone. Her name was gone. Her seat in the classroom was gone. Her memories were gone. Only Kaito remembered her. And that memory was like a knife twisting deeper with every second. No, she was real, she was right here. We were together. You laughed with her. You talked to her. You cried with her. The entire class stared in shock. The homeroom teacher rushed forward, grabbing Kaito's shoulders. Kaito, calm down. He fought against her grip, screaming, why don't you remember her? Why am I the only one left? The teacher's voice cracked. Kaito, please, we never had a student named Mika. You're scaring everyone. Kaito pushed away from her and stared at the yearbook again with bloodshot eyes. He turned to the 1998 graduation photo. There she was. Mika, standing between Shun and Aya. Her face was crystal clear. More alive than ever. Eyes gleaming, lips curved in a gentle smile. Not a cursed smile. Not the forced grin of the others. A soft, real smile. A smile that said, I kept my promise. Kaito dropped to his knees, sobbing so violently his body shook. Someone in the class whispered, is he mentally breaking down? Someone else replied, maybe the trauma from Shun and Aya disappearing finally got to him. They pitied him. They feared him. But none of them remembered Mika. None of them remembered that the class once had a leader. Someone kind, stubborn, brave. Someone who saved them. Kaito pressed his forehead against the cold floor, choking on his tears. I'm the only one who remembers you. I'm the only one who knows you existed. He didn't know whether that made him lucky or cursed, because remembering her meant living with the pain of losing her, while the rest of the world lived peacefully, ignorance shielding them from grief. The bell rang for first period. Chairs shifted. Pages turned. Life moved forward. But Kaito didn't move. Because for him, the world had ended last night. And yet, somewhere inside that yearbook, Mika, smiling, was still looking at him. Not with fear. Not with sorrow. But with the expression of someone who had chosen her fate. Kaito whispered with a broken voice only the photo could hear. I will get you back. Even if the whole world forgets you. I won't. He didn't notice the faint glow on the printed image. Right beneath Mika's smile. A warmth. A trace. A spark. As if Mika heard him, and was answering. Chapter 14, The Yearbook That Wouldn't Close. Kaito didn't go home. He stayed in the classroom long after everyone else left, gripping the yearbook so tightly his knuckles turned white. He tried closing it. The book did not close. No matter how hard he pushed down on the cover. The pages refused to shut. As if invisible hands were holding them open. The 1998 graduation photo remained on display. Mika, Shun, Aya, and the others, smiling. Kaito stared at Mika's image for hours, as if memorizing every detail. The bell rang for cleaning time. The bell rang for dismissal. Students left in groups. Then teachers went home. Eventually the school fell into silence. Still, the yearbook remained open. Still, Mika smiled. 7:32 p.m. The janitor walked into the classroom to lock up. He found Kaito sitting there alone. You need to go home, kid, school's closed. Kaito didn't answer. The janitor walked over and tried to close the yearbook. The instant his fingers touched it, he yanked his hand away as if burned. There's something wrong with this thing. He backed away and left the room hurriedly. Kaito never moved. 10:14 p.m. The school was pitch black. Only the faint glow of the yearbook's page illuminated the room. And then, the photograph moved. Not shifting. Not transforming. Breathing. The students in the 1998 photo rose and fell subtly. as if their lungs were working. Kaito's heart nearly stopped. He leaned closer without thinking. And the figures in the photo turned their eyes toward him. Not all of them. Just two. Mika. And Kaito. In the photo, Kaito's face, not his real body, but the version printed in the photo, slowly lifted its head and stared back. His mouth stretched wider, the cursed grin turning into something animalistic. A smile so wide it should have torn his skin apart. The Kaito in the photo reached toward Mika. His hand hovered inches from hers. The moment the printed fingers touched her image, Kaito felt it. A sharp pain in his palm. Like invisible threads were pulling him into the page. The yearbook wanted him back. He was supposed to be the replacement. Mika had stolen his place. So now it needed to correct the photograph. Kaito ripped his hand away and stumbled backward. The Kaito inside the photo snapped his head toward him. Smile wider. Eyes empty. And then the worst part. The printed Kaito began to laugh. A silent laugh. But Kaito heard it in his mind. Like a voice from inside his skull. Greater than trade places. Kaito screamed and slammed the book shut with all the strength he had. The sound echoed through the empty school. The yearbook fell silent. His body trembled uncontrollably, sweat, tears, and blood mixing on his hands. Then, very slowly, the book opened on its own again. Deathly quiet. This time it flipped not to 1998, but to 2025. The class page. There were no blank spaces anymore. All names and faces were filled. Except his. Kaito's slot remained empty. Not erased. Not replaced. Just waiting. Mika's sacrifice hadn't ended the curse. It had stalled it. Kaito wasn't saved. The yearbook was simply giving him time. Not mercy. Time to decide. Time to choose. Let someone else replace him. Or take his own place beside Mika. He stared down at the only line without a face. Slowly, his name began to appear in faint ink. As if the book was tired of waiting. Kaito. Letter by letter. Inviting him. Claiming him. Expecting him. Kaito backed away, shaking his head violently. No, not yet, not yet, not yet. He ran out of the classroom, but he knew the truth. He could flee the school. He could destroy every camera. He could remove every mirror. But the yearbook would never stop. Not until he filled the empty space. Not until the picture was perfect. Chapter 15, The 16th Face. A week passed after the school festival. The 1998 yearbook still sat on display in the hallway of Saimei High. Bathed in gentle morning sunlight. Students walked past it without hesitation. Laughing, chatting, complaining about homework, club activities, and exams. Everything seemed normal. No one paid attention to the yearbook. No one feared it. No one remembered that 3 students from class 11B had vanished from the world. No one, except Kaito. The hint of rebirth. Kaito came to school earlier than usual. His eyes drifted immediately to the yearbook. It was still open to the 1998 graduation photo. Shun. Aya. Mika. All smiling. No one was missing. Nothing was distorted. But the detail that froze his blood was something no one else noticed. Mika's eyes were no longer off to the side. She wasn't facing the camera anymore. She was looking straight forward. Straight out of the page. Straight at Kaito. A tear rolled down his cheek and fell onto the page. And for the first time, the photograph reacted to the living world. Mika's eyes shimmered. Her lips trembled. Her expression wavered, almost as if she were crying too. Kaito whispered, voice shaking. Mika, can you hear me? No voice answered. But Mika's smile faded, not into sadness, not into fear, but into defiance. Kaito realized what it meant. Greater than if the memory of the living was stronger than the curse. Someone trapped inside could fight back. A spark of hope lit in his chest. But before he could take another breath, the next tragedy began. The next generation. A group of first-year students on a school tour passed by the display shelf. One girl pointed curiously at the yearbook. "Why is there a student with no name here?" A boy laughed. "Probably a printing mistake." Another joked. "Let's see whose face it is." One of them reached out, and the yearbook flipped its own pages. Not to 1998. To 2026. The class portrait layout for next year. Completely blank. No faces. No names. Just empty portrait slots. And below them, a faint red sentence began to appear. As if written by an invisible hand. Greater than next chosen, blank. The first years laughed nervously. The girl from earlier leaned in. "Wow, it's seriously creepy." No one else was afraid. But Kaito's heart stopped. Because the yearbook wasn't predicting anything. It was choosing. The red letters began to form. A. Kaito tried to speak, but no sound came out. A. N. His vision blurred. His hands shook. A. N. R. Kaito collapsed to his knees. No, not her, not again. The yearbook finished writing. Greater than ANRI. The first-year girl who had pointed to the page. The one who laughed. The one who had no idea what she had just invited. Her friends teased her. "Congrats. Anri, you're famous now. Your name's in the school yearbook." They had no idea. None of them. Only Kaito knew. And the yearbook wasn't finished. Another blank space appeared right after Anri's name. Greater than next chosen. Anri, blank. For the first time ever. The curse wanted two names. It wasn't satisfied anymore. Something had changed. Something had evolved. The yearbook is closed. But the curse isn't over. Inside the photo. The smiles are still waiting. Shun, Aya, Mika, all of them. And now, a new name has appeared on the next page. Not erased. Not replaced. Just chosen. Two faces. One place. A fate still unwritten. The picture isn't perfect yet. The story continues in part 2. Eye Candle.
Like and subscribe to Whispering Dark Tales for more chilling ghost stories.